Hello everybody, my name is Eddie Cole and welcome to my channel. Long time no see, I can now realize just how absolutely terrible my webcam is. I can't really do anything about it at the moment. I could probably record with my phone, it would be a hell lot better, but I don't think the audio quality would be as good. And the audio here is the main point, though obviously my pretty face is probably some sort of an attraction for the video. But nonetheless, I'm here after a long pause in my epic political video saga here to talk about a grave matter. This will probably be among the most serious videos I make. Even all of the political videos I have made are one way or another a little tongue-in-cheek, usually. Uh, they do have elements of very severe. Uh, they share the same properties as many very serious topical videos do, but they are usually filled with some sort of humor, and I most often put on some sort of a persona. I I do that also here. This is not me exactly, but this will probably be the closest you will reach to Eetu Nikula and not Eddie Cole on this channel. Okay, so the thing I want to talk about today is the fact that Donald J. Trump has officially, according to AP, won the 2024 presidential election. I'm quite surprised that it was this fast, especially. I remember in 2020 we had to wait for the clear results of Biden's victory for a few days. I would remember it was the 8th evening of the 8th of November that we heard the news here in Finland that Biden has won. It was a day of great rejoice. But today is not. Today is. I cannot call it necessarily a tragic day. Tragedy would imply that something was lost. But the fact is that nothing has been lost necessarily today. What has happened has been more of a testament to a political landscape that does not function any longer, of hatred and division, I should say, and a lot of other, a testament to political abnormality, I could say. That is what has happened today. Trump himself is less of a person than he is a symbol. The personhood of Trump is of very little interest to most of his followers. The personhood of Trump is very vile, it is very disgusting. From what we know, he is very likely a rapist, possibly a pedophile, a racist. The list goes on. I'm just going through the things in my mind of all the things that he has done, and it truly does sadden me that not even that a single one of those things would in most civilized countries put a person well behind bars first of all, but make them completely unelectable. Now, Trump is more than free to run for president in the US. Only in one or two states there was even a controversy about whether or not he should be up for running. And the fact is that democracy needs its own restrictions for it to function. I do not believe that people who are completely bereft of the capability of ruling, leading, should ever be considered for those positions, even if it is what the people want. What I believe is, of course, that Trump should be behind bars, not only for a countless charges of sexual assault, but also for inciting what perhaps a little controversially could be called a coup. A coup on January the 6th. And if there is any silver lining to the situation today that Trump won, it would be that we don't have to endure a similar situation, which is very saddening because I know that were it to have come to a Kamala Harris victory today, it January 6th would have looked like a playground incident compared to what could have followed. Talking of could haves and would haves and should haves, on the first term of Trump, I never recorded on his policy making him to be one of the worst. No, not necessarily. I believe he was mostly a quite a horrible president, I would say. But I wouldn't say he cracks well even the top 10 of the worst presidents in the history of the United States. The consideration there being such persons as Andrew Jackson, James Buchanan, Zachary Taylor, other vile people who have caused slavery beyond measure and the destruction of entire peoples of Native Americans. But the truth is that coming to a second term for Donald Trump, I have no doubt in my mind that he is completely capable of such devastation, destruction, and such hatred. Possibly even more. Given a globalized world, any of those leaders, any of the persons who are completely unfit for any office, especially the office of the leader of the greatest country the world has ever seen. I'm sorry, I'm lagging a lot here because it takes a lot of time to process for someone like me. The fact is that hope is quite wavering at these times. What has surprised me the most is how this is a minor note to add, but has surprised me a lot, I would say, not the most, but a lot, is how rapidly stocks have fallen to the Trump victory. And why is this? Well, most companies try to somehow uh, benefit ecological expansions, ecological endeavors, you know, call it greenwashing from companies even. But nonetheless, even if the actions taken by certain corporations have been very minimal towards a more climate sensitive form model of production, the stocks of those corporations have still fallen quite a lot just in the span of a single day. This is obviously due to the fact that under Trump, the United States will not see any progress when it comes to climate policy. The Biden-Harris administration has seen some of the most competent uh, climate policies that the United States has ever seen. Now, personally, I'm a very radical person to some extent, and I would have liked to see even more, and we could have seen more if Kamala would have been the victor of this election. But unfortunately, that did not come to be. Instead, we will see our planet turned even more into a corporate landfill. A playground for corporations to exercise their power and their endless greed for capital. Irrational greed for capital would be probably the best way to say it. Talking of the possibility of Trump becoming one of the worst presidents ever, during his new administration, it will probably take into place that he will largely extend the power of the president. Now, I do not know if he will become a dictator, so to say, someone who will not go out of the Oval Office after 4 years. But I am 99% sure that he will try, and he will try hard to do this. If he is to succeed, well, God knows how long he will live after that. He is not the healthiest person alive. But if he is to succeed in such endeavors, well, we would not be seeing an end to this. Perhaps not even after Trump is gone. The changes he is about to make as president, which he will likely be able to implement, at least many of them, will be so extremely catastrophic for the entirety of the planet. This is not only a problem in the United States. The elections of the United States are at least as harmful, or let's say, in a very general term, potential for the world as they are for the United States. Now, that saddens me, because essentially we here in Western democracies live under a democracy and a dictatorial rule over which we have had no vote. The United States is the leader of the world. The leader of all countries with the possible exception of China, bow down to the United States. Even Russia. You know how Russian officials claimed that if Russia ever even puts troops on the border of Ukraine, like a single, a furrowing of a brow will cause the Ukrainian army to halt and surrender. Well, that is how the relationship between the United States and Russia functions. Obviously, now that Trump has won, that might shift and Russia might gain a lot of power, which is not good for us here in Europe. Not good at all. The economy of the United States will likely fall down to China, as immigration to the United States will be lessened by a lot. This will cause an economic downfall, no doubt about it. The deportation and factoring of immigration out of the country is devastating. The Latin American population of the United States is what keeps the country running. Without it, the country would collapse in days, weeks, maybe. Then there is, of course, the question of some of social cultural minorities. Trans people have been a very, very close at heart subject for many voters, on both sides. Of course, you could say that it is obviously, well, most definitely the Republicans' fault that it is such an issue. For the Democrats, trans people would not be an issue. But the Republicans like to see issues everywhere which they find somehow abnormal. This is the state of the world. Abnormalities, or even things that are taken to be at odds with a certain status quo, not perhaps even a status quo, but of a set of social norms that do not necessarily even pertain to any morality or ethical outlook. People who do not apply to those are oppressed. People who do not somehow comply to the social standards that have been held for not necessarily even a long time, and in many cultures are still prevalent, are oppressed. And now the world's strongest man is on the side of the oppressors. This is the state of the world, and hope is very little. I recall George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel prophetically saying that America is the land of the future, which will decide the world history. Now, even in the 1800s, the 1830s, 20s, when Hegel lived, this quote might have been partially true. America was, in fact, growing in its influence, but very much still in its infancy. But, as we know, he was talking about the future. Today, the United States, well, the United States rules all. And the United States is about to set world history. There are obviously still things that can be done. However, those are very little. Obviously, now that the Supreme Court has basically made the president completely immune to all criminal charges, obviously President Biden could do something to, I don't know, influence things. So perhaps so that presidential powers are lessened marginally, or even by a lot. I obviously don't want elections to be meddled with or for any sort of political violence to happen. That is not my case. But I do believe that when Biden will have to leave the office for Donald Trump, I hope he does it so that Donald Trump will cause the least amount of destruction possible. Even still, I believe that there are things that even we here in Europe can do, and most necessarily things that Americans can do. The truth is that this election was a failure for democracy, for progressivism, for the left, for basic political standards because of apathy, voter apathy. The Republican and especially the MAGA crowd is very much mobilized. They are fanatic even. But in the same way, in the United States, there does not exist a leftist, a progressivist force that could outrival MAGA in its mobilization. This is bad. It is, I think it is approximated that if all of Democrats who would vote Democrat would vote, the election would not have even been close. Kamala Harris would have probably won around 65 to 45%. I'm sorry, the 65 to 35. But alas, that's not the case. People seem to think that because things have run for quite a long time, for some while, that things will keep on running. But that is not the case with history. History will always find things that can be meddled with. And Trump, and more necessarily what he symbolizes, is a catastrophic agent of history. And what Trump in the end symbolizes is the failure of the left. The failure of the left to actually take into their hearts the actual comments of people. We are talking about very good social welfare, very high states of social welfare, medical care, high taxation that is used properly, not high taxation that is used improperly, like currently is done in the United States. Rather, taxation that actually will go to benefit all people. Economic stability, not necessarily growth, but economic stability, so that all people can live comfortably. Social progress, so that all kinds of different people can live in harmony. These things have not been pushed nearly enough by the left. The left has failed. And Donald J. Trump, as the President of the United States, is the result. There is very little hope regarding the United States right now. But I would like to be optimistic, idealistic even, quixotic, if I may. There is always hope. And what we can do now is act. Go to your local community and spread the word of left, word of progress, and the word of, I don't know, workers' rights, economic equality, of why immigration is not necessarily perhaps such a bad thing, why women's right to choose what to do with their bodies actually matters. Very simple things, but nonetheless things that people need to be educated on. That is what should be done. Myself, I can do very little about America, but I am considering running for office on a local council. Uh, these are the things that the normal man can do, anyone can do. And in the end, we do still live in at least some fading semblances of democracies, even in the United States. What the people choose always matters, even within dictatorships. Because if the people are not glad, are not happy, do not receive the basic rights that all people are endowed with, dictatorships fall, and democracy will always triumph. Educate yourselves, please, and then do something. Anything at all that will undermine the way for a better world. Thank you. My name is Eddie Cole, and I will see you next time. Whether that be tomorrow or a year from now. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.